All right. Well, good morning, or actually, it's good afternoon to you all. My name is Lauren Plaza, and I will be your workshop facilitator. For those who are just joining us, welcome, and thank you to Shoco Wellness for having me. If you did not come to the last presentation, again, my name is Lauren Plaza, and I am coming to you from Oregon in the United States. So this is where I live, right in Oregon on the West Coast. I'm between California and Washington, so this is where I am. Here's a picture of the high desert. It's called a Painted Hill. So anytime you come to Oregon, you can go see these beautiful hills. And then also, this is our lovely Pacific Coast. So I wanted to give you an idea of places that I like to go and hang out in and how beautiful my state is. All right, with that, let's get started. So today's topics are procrastination, time management, and self-motivation. So the objectives for today's presentation will be, students will be able to understand why they procrastinate. Students will be able to apply new strategies and techniques to their daily lives, and students will be able to complete their assignments on time. And this is if you follow my really great advice. So what does it mean to procrastinate? Procrastination is the act of putting things off or choosing to do one thing instead of another that you feel or know that you should be doing. So here are some of the excuses that we make, and we all procrastinate. So sometimes we'll say, oh, we'll do it later, someday, tomorrow, not sure. It really depends on what our task is. All right, so here's some statistics for you. 87% of students said that they procrastinate. Makes sense. 13% said they do not. 45% say procrastination negatively impacts their grades fairly regularly or very often. Males are more likely to procrastinate than females. And more than 70% of all students pulled at least one all-nighter this school year. And we're going to talk about one-nighters and how to effectively plan your time in the second part of this presentation. So procrastination can develop into a serious habit that will impact your ability to be productive. So what are students most likely to procrastinate on? See if you see yourself here. Writing a paper, studying for a test, group project. All right. Procrastination negatively affects academic performance. It produces lower quality work. Students turn in work late. It increases levels of stress. And I wanted you to look at this little graph I have here. So procrastination really means that you typically start off, your energy is really low and your procrastination level is the same. And as your energy progresses, you'll see where the curve is. That's where you have motivation. And then your stress level will go down, and then your burnout will subside. So that's typically what our model is for procrastination. So why do we procrastinate? We procrastinate because outcomes that are far in the future are things we don't have to think about. And we'll go into more detail with each point that I put up here. You may be feeling overwhelmed. You may be indecisive, maybe a perfectionist, or there may be some depression. Maybe you're distracted. Maybe you're all of the above. All right. Outcomes that are far in the future. So let's talk about that. So people often procrastinate on tasks that are associated with outcomes, and in your case, your grades, that will only experience after completing the task. So you're thinking, that exam is in a few weeks. I don't need to really get on it. I don't really need to study for that just yet. People tend to discount the value of outcomes that are far in the future. And here's an example. It's easier to discount the value of attaining good grades on exams while the exam is still weeks away compared to when it's only days away, which is one of the reasons why people wait until right before the deadline to complete necessary tasks. So start thinking about some of these examples and see if you can relate to any of them. So sometimes you feel overwhelmed. So people sometimes procrastinate because they feel overwhelmed with regards to the tasks that they need to do. This can occur if the task feels huge in terms of scope or having a large number of small tasks to add up to. Here's an example. If you need to clean up your entire house, the fact that the task will take so long and involve so many parts might cause you to feel overwhelmed, in which case you might avoid getting started on it in the first place. Indecisiveness. Students sometimes procrastinate because they are unable to make decisions in a timely manner. Students can decide which course of action to engage in, or a certain decision has to be made before they can move ahead with their general plan of action. Here's an example. Students might delay starting to diet because they can't decide which diet plan to follow. Similarly, a student might delay getting started on their research paper because they can't decide which topic to write about. Perfectionism. Perfectionism can lead to procrastinate in a number of ways, such as by making someone so afraid of making a mistake that they end up not taking any action at all. Or by being so worried of finishing something with any flaws that they end up reworking their project entirely instead of presenting it when it's ready. And your example is, some might delay working on their paper because they want every line that they write down to be perfect from the start, which causes them not to write anything at all. So we're going to talk about all of these a little bit in more detail as we keep going on. But I just wanted to pause for a second, and because I know it's a lot of information, and have you start thinking about, okay, where do I fall into, which group do I fall in? Because we're not going to start building on this. Okay, depression. Some people procrastinate because they suffer from underlying depression. Depression can lead to issues such as fatigue, difficulty in concentrating, and a reduced interest in activities, which in turn can cause people to procrastinate. Here's your example. Someone who is depressed might repeatedly postpone studying because they simply don't have enough mental energy. And I think for a lot of us, we have all been there. I certainly have been there. Sometimes it's a mixture of feeling overwhelmed. So then it's like, I start to feel a little depressed because I'm feeling overwhelmed. Distractibility. So this is huge, and it's huge for me. I'm going to admit, this is a big one. Distractibility is the inability to focus your attention on one thing at a time, or to stay focused for long in general. So one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly is that your brain is really only has developed to only focus on one thing at a time. I know a lot of people say, oh, they listen to music helps them, or they're sitting in front of the TV. But what your brain is actually doing is switching. It's reading, it's listening to the TV or music. It's going back and forth. So when you've got other things around, that means that your brain's actually not taking in the whole meaning of what you're supposed to be doing or reading, because your brain is constantly switching back and forth. So higher levels of distractibility can make a student more likely to procrastinate, such as when people constantly switch from one focus of attention to another. So that's exactly what I was just talking about. For example, a student who is studying for a test might end up procrastinating because they are constantly distracted by the notifications on their phone or by new ideas. So typically, when I am doing some work, when I was studying, my phone used to be in another room. And again, we'll talk about that. So there are types of procrastinators. So you just jot down after the slide and you tell me which one you think you may fall into, or which ones you may fall into. So there are 4 of them. There's the performer, the self-deprecator, the overbooker, and the novelty seeker. So we're going to talk about each one. So the performer, who says, I work well under pressure. This forces themselves to focus by shrinking the amount of time they have to tackle the task. They are also perfectionists. The next one is the self-deprecator, who says, I am so lazy right now. This student is usually extra hard on themselves. They tend to blame inaction or laziness or stubbornness rather than admit that they're tired. The overbooker, who says, I'm so busy. This procrastinator is a pro at filling up their calendar and is often overwhelmed. They always perceive themselves as busy, and they use being busy to avoid tasks. And the last one is the novelty seeker, who says, I just had the best idea. So they constantly come up with new projects to take on. They get bored easily with new projects, and they are intrigued by the latest 10 and will be quick to implement, but have a hard time following through. So if you recognize yourself in one of the 4, just make a mental note. You don't have to put it up in the chat. Just make a mental note. All right, so let's start about stopping procrastination. So here we go. Start by establishing your goals. So you typically have short-term goals and long-term goals. Your long-term goal is to pass this class, right? Your short-term goal is to get through this class. So how are you going to do that? Now you want to make your short-term goals into shorter goals. So that may be, I have a paper to write. I have a test to do. I have a group project. These are your short-term goals in order for you to get to that long-term goal. Once you've completed that long-term goal, so you've passed this class, now your next long-term goal may be that you need to graduate. So short-term goals are as short as you want to make them, and the long-term goals is as long as you want to make them, as long as you have them in perspective so that they can work building on each other to achieve your ultimate goal, which in this context is to graduate. All right, so you need to define your goals as clearly as possible. A good way to do that is to make sure you have all the information from your professor. So if you get a syllabus or an outline of your class for however long, you need to go through that, and you need to know what your goals will be in order to achieve whatever is on that syllabus. So again, if you think you have a research paper to do, well, what are your goals? Well, you've got to start researching. You've got to start writing. You've got to start editing. You've got to read it over, and then you've got to start all over again, because nobody actually ever writes a perfect paper. So you have to define your goals as clearly as possible. Goals should be significant enough to allow you to make meaningful progress. So again, you want to make sure that they're not too small or they're not too big. You want to make pretty much smaller goals to also have that feeling that you've completed something and you've done it well, to move on, so that you actually, by the time you reach the larger goal, you have completed your shorter goals really proficiently and well. So here are some sample goals. So we've got short-term goals, which are long-term goals. So the first one, I will finish my homework on time. And your long-term goal, again, is to increase your C to an A. I will follow directions. I will start on time. I will remain positive, and I will use my outdoor voice. So again, my indoor voice. Those are all short-term goals. And if you're wondering about your indoor voices, is a calm and collected voice that other people will also be able to approach you and have a conversation with you. So it's not going to be a voice that you are that you use when you're outside, when you're playing a game. This is going to be your quiet indoor academic voice. So again, your long-term goal, one of them will be to increase your grade from a C to an A. I will have a 3-point grade point average at the end of school. So here in the US, we typically have a 4-point grade point average is the highest you can get. So I'm not sure how your grading is done there, but 3-point is pretty good. I will get a job working 2 days a week, and I will get into college or here university, 2-year or 4-year school. Again, we have a different system, and I pulled a sample from Google. So again, that gives you a good idea of what your goal should be. Okay, how to stop procrastinating. So you need to figure out the exact nature of your procrastination problem. Think about the times where you procrastinated and then identify when, how, and why you did so. So were you about to start that paper, but then you got a ding from WhatsApp, or you got a ding from TikTok, and that video was so good that you want to just keep scrolling through to check out this person on the For You page because this person's really interesting and more interesting than me starting this paper. I know this has happened to me, I'm not gonna lie. So anyways, this is where you need to figure out when and why you procrastinate, and then you need to do something about it. As mentioned, this phone, it goes into another room, so I'm not distracted. Okay, how to stop procrastination. Implement your plan of action. Make sure to monitor your progress and refine this plan. Modify or drop anti-procrastination techniques based on how well they work for you, and by adding new ones if you think they could help. All right, create a plan of action. So on this really, really scientific graph that I have up here for you, here we see our slope of procrastination. So when we start a task and we have a lot of productivity, our procrastination, let me see, what am I doing here? Okay, so we start off having a lot of ideas, we do the work, and our brain is in motion, everything's going well, and by the time we've ended the task, our procrastination also goes down. So yes, I hope that you appreciate my very scientific graph. All right, so getting back to create a plan of action. The plan should involve a combination of relevant anti-procrastination techniques. Okay, so now we're finished talking a little bit about procrastination, but we will merge both together, but let's talk a little bit about time management. So what is time management? So this is actually one of my favorite presentations because it is just so important. So please put down the phone and let's get going. Time management is the process of planning and controlling how much time is spent on specific activities. Good time management enables a student to complete more in a shorter period of time. It lowers stress and leads to academic success. Why is time management important? Well, less stress. Managing your time reduces your stress level and increases your confidence. It also helps you to take control of your time. Taking control of your time also reduces stress and anxiety. So here on my little picture, it also helps when you manage your stress, you sleep well, you can exercise, you eat healthy, you worry less. You laugh, you think positively, you work smart, not hard, and you keep things simple. So if you do all of this, this will manage your stress as well. So it works both ways. So good time management means meeting tight deadlines and planning your time. All right, so the next point is better school life balance. One of the most important benefits of time management, which is true. You need to have your school life balance, meaning that you need to complete your schoolwork, but you also have to have time for real life. You know, if you've got younger siblings, you may have to take care of them. You may have some event that you have to go to. So you need to figure out how to balance your school life. Be more productive at school and have more time to spend on your most important relationships. So you can also have more freedom, and it ensures you have the time and freedom to do more of the things that matter to you the most. So for me, these pictures were taken between this past September and 2 years ago in Aruba. The first picture is Eagle Beach, and that's me doing a little bit of snorkeling on Baby Beach. So I thought that was fun to throw in. And again, that's because I had managed my time and I was able to go down to Aruba and I was able to do some work during the day, but I had time to go snorkeling. Because what's the point of going to Aruba if you can't go snorkeling, right? All right, let's go. And good time management ensures that you focus on your biggest priorities. So greater focus increases your focus and improves your creativity. It allows you to capture bigger opportunities, and it allows you to spend more time on the projects, goals, and people that matter. You also have higher levels of productivity. It increases your productivity and it helps you get more done. It helps you to reduce stress and prioritize your time, and it clarifies your goals and prioritizes your most important tasks. Less procrastination. So we talked about procrastination, and you'll see how procrastination will keep unfolding in this part of the presentation. So procrastination happens when you don't manage your time. We know that. When you aren't clear and focused on your goals, it's easy to procrastinate. Poor time management causes distraction and procrastination. So I have some little visuals here. Typical one for a lot of people is I'll do that tomorrow. My big one is put that phone away. And then of course the one on the side, let me just move my things over here. You've got your stress level and you're sort of just relaxing, and your stress level, you're kind of just chilling out. And then when you realize that you've got to meet this deadline, you're panicking. And that's typically your end of semester, your end of block, your end of term. So yeah, all right. Things are simpler and easier. Make things simple and easy. When you take control of your time, you are more confident and capable. It ensures you feel clear and confident about how to use your time. Less distraction. It eliminates distraction and boosts concentration. Increases focus and limits distractions. Increased energy. One of the biggest benefits of managing time is greater energy and motivation. So if you look at the black visual, you've got motivation in the middle. And once you have motivation, your attitude changes. You become more successful. Your performance gets better. You look for support, but you also support your peers as well. You come up with ideas and your goals, you start achieving your goals. So our last point is, why is time management important? It gives you time to think. Effective time management theories give you more time to think and plan. It ensures you have more time to work on your biggest priorities. All right, so I want you to think about these. Again, you don't have to write them down. If you want to put them in the chat, that would be great, but I want you to think of some of your time planning obstacles. So you can't follow a time plan. You feel overwhelmed. No flexibility. You overestimate the amount of time available. You need pressure to be creative. Unforeseen circumstances. Again, suddenly, oh, somebody's gotten sick in your family, a parent is working late, or you're being called out to your job. Things happen, and then the studying you thought you were going to do at that time, it's not happening. So let me know if any of these resonate with you. Okay, time management and structure levels. So here we have 5 structure levels, and all of us are pretty much on fall into one of these levels. And I'm hoping that your trajectory is that you go from 1 to 5. That being said, it's pretty difficult to go from 1 to 5 right away. So my goal for you is, if you are in level 1, that by the end of your block or your semester, you will go on to level 2. And if you feel you're on to level 2, get to level 3, and so on. So I'm just hoping that you will jump to the next level after we've talked about these and you've practiced what we've been talking about. So let's go for them. Level 1, work when I feel like it. So students appreciate and possibly even need a lot of flexibility and freedom. And again, I want you to see which one resonates with you. Most students working at this level are usually aware of deadlines, and students may have a general idea of what they should accomplish, but most of the time they do not keep a regular written record of what they need to do. All right, level 2, minimal structure plan. Students who prefer a little bit more structure will often keep a calendar with due dates and lists. Students may divide tasks according to what they will do on the weekend versus during the week. Level 3, daily time plan. Students at this level keep a list of what they want to accomplish each day. Typically, the lists are written in one regular weekly planning session. Students set priorities by deciding what needs to be done each day to keep on top of deadlines. So ultimately, I would like you, if you are in 1 or 2, to eventually, by the end of the year, be on level 3. Level 4, segmented day plan. With this level of structure, the day is divided into morning, afternoon, and evening, and tasks are defined for each of these periods. Rather than determine which subject-related tasks will be done in each segment, some students prefer to plan the type of task that they'll be doing. So instead of saying, okay, today at 10 o'clock, I'm going to, let's say, focus on my sociology class, you're actually going to document or what type of task you're going to do. So what are you going to do? Are you going to read? Are you going to read effectively? Are you going to be taking notes? We covered all of these in the last workshop. Are you going to be working on a project? So this is just a little higher level of thinking about what you're going to do. So you're not just going to figure it out once you decide to start studying. And level 5, hourly time plan. This involves defining which study task will be done at which particular time in the day, hour by hour. High levels of structure for students who need it only during crunch times like exam, and requires you to make thoughtful, intelligent decisions about the best way to use your time. So, one more. It enables you to see exactly how much work you have to do and decide when to do it. So think about which level you resonate with and where you think you are and which level you think you can jump to. Again, I'm not expecting you to jump 2 levels. I'm hoping that you can get to 1 sooner than later, and by the end of your term, or sorry, the year, that you would have jumped to the next level. All right, so how do we achieve all this? That's a lot of information. So your term long or block long planning tips. So work backwards with your planning, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Look at big projects and events and create sub goals, smaller deadlines, and other manageable milestones to break up the project. So remember your goals, short-term, long-term goals. Remember to allocate enough time needed for each project and overestimate when unsure how long the project will take. So if you think the project's going to take you a week, give yourself a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on what your project is about. There's some more tips. Create a long-term assignment calendar at the beginning of the term or your block. I'm sorry, we use terms here, so this is why I'm using that word, but you choose whatever word suits your situation. Include information from all of your courses, as well as busy weekends and other life commitments. Integrate your tests and due dates into your weekly planner at the beginning of the term so you can plan ahead for these major assignments. Long-term planning includes knowing all exam dates, all test dates, when projects or portfolios are due, when papers are due, and when you have significant social events to attend, like weddings, parties, sports events. So again, you will get this through your syllabus or your syllabi from multiple professors or your class outline. I'm hoping that they all give you this at the beginning of your class, on the first day of your class. So what I need you to do is go through all of your syllabi and figure out, write down when your test exams are and all your test dates and everything on this page. And I'm going to show you how to organize it. So I have something here called Week at a Glance. And I know this is very old school where you can write in stuff, but you can get this online. And this actually manages your week. So what I would like you to do is fill in something like this and be realistic and stick to the plan. So here's what I did. I filled this in for you, and I will try to stick to this plan. So I wake up at 7 o'clock. I give myself time to eat and travel. I give myself time to read. I give myself time to go to the gym. I review, and then I take my classes. I give myself time to eat. I give myself time to review, finish review, homework, and have group meetings. So you need to be really realistic about this. And if you follow this as closely as you can every week, you will have everything organized for yourself. Now, I want you to take a look at the difference between read and review. So typically, the best time to read for most people is in the morning. By the time the evening comes, your brain has been filled up with a lot of information and it's almost full. So trying to get some reading in there, you're not going to have enough brain power. You're going to be tired. You're going to have other things on your mind. So waking up and being fresh and doing your reading it's really the best time to read in the morning. So if you can do that, fine. Reading before you go to sleep, not so good. Also, I've got reviewing, and it's typically right after the end of each school day, because what you review in class will help you to retain what you've learned right after class. So the closer to class, to review what you've learned in that class that day will really help you retain that information. And then on the weekends, when you have some more time, you'll use that for studying and again, reviewing what you've learned for the whole week. So your study process is a lot of review. Okay, then I've got something called a month at a glance. So what I've done is I've color coded it, and I'm sorry you can't see the yellow very well. We talked about color coding in the last workshop, and what I've done is I've coded what's really important. So this month at a glance is just what's important for me to not forget: an exam, a paper due, and tests. So my exams, they typically come midway through what we have as a term. So I've got those down. My paper dues, those are also sometimes mid to end of term, and then my tests. So if you notice, if you look on Wednesday, I've got sociology pop-up tests on Wednesdays. I have Fridays, I have math homework due. I didn't highlight those because I ran out of colors. But so I know, like, these are the important things I need to know. So let's look at the history paper. I have a history paper due on the 25th of the month. When am I going to start the history paper? I'm not going to start it 2 days before, because what you want to do is write it, reread it, edit. You may have to do some research. It's a whole process. Writing a paper on the first time, your first time, and handing it in is not a good idea. You need to read, write, reread, read to somebody, edit, and then you hand it in. I'm not sure if you have a writing center, but you can, if you do, you can certainly take it to your writing center and have somebody go over it for you. Okay, so getting back to this history paper, it's on the 21st. So when am I going to start studying for this history paper, or starting to write this history paper? Well, all the way on the 7th. If you look, it says outlines for SOS and history papers. So look how much time I'm giving myself. I'm writing an outline. Then I'm going to start writing on the 8th, the sociology paper, because that's due before the history paper. And then, oh, look, I have a wedding. So I know that day there's no studying whatsoever. So what I have actually done is I have put in all the really, really pertinent due dates and when I need to start writing and when I need to finish. And I guarantee you this will help you. So you can actually do this on your phone. You can get an electronic one. You can put it as your screensaver. I had a student from another university tell me that this helped him so much because every day when he turned on his computer, he could see what he needs to accomplish, what is happening. And you don't want to forget about your papers or your exams. All right, so here's the block at a glance. So I've got this now divided into weeks. So here we have 10-week terms. So again, this is a different way for you to do the same thing. It's not as detailed, and you can make it as detailed as you want, but if you make too many details, then it's going to be too much. This is called a glance for a reason. You want to know, well, what's happening during my week, during my term or my block. So let's look at week 3. I've got a sociology test. I've got an English proposal to write for my paper because my paper is due in week 6, right? And so on and so forth. Again, and if you color code this, it makes it much easier. You can color code with either what your tasks are. So if it's an exam or a test, or you can color code with pertaining to which subject. It's up to you. Just don't go too wild with the colors. All right, let me see where I am. Okay, so here are some tips for you. Plan ahead. That is huge. I can't say that enough. Plan ahead. Find a quiet place to study. Studying in front of a TV or with people walking around, people chatting with you, again, the phone thing, that is going to break up your concentration. So find a quiet place to study. Start with your weakest subject. And I know this is a topic that's no fun because I used to go for the easy stuff. And then when it was time to actually work on the hardest subject for me, or the ones that I had most difficulty with, well, guess what? I was running out of time. So start with your weakest subject. Finish that off. Feel that sense of accomplishment, and then work on the stuff that is easy for you. Have a study buddy. So somebody that you can study with, not, just chat, but actually study, share ideas, and test you as well, ask you questions. Turn off anything that would be a distraction. We talked about that. Leave your phone in another room. Block off a time to study and stay with your plan. So if you know you're going to be studying at 9 a.m. every morning, block that off and stick with it. Routine is really good when you're going to university. Trust me on this, because things can actually blow up because there are outside factors. Take breaks every 30 minutes. So I talked about this in our last workshop. 30 minutes is a good time. So you do your studying, you do your reading. You don't want to feel burnt out. You don't want to be reading and then you're forgetting what you read in the last paragraph. Just know in 30 minutes, you're going to take a break, take everything in, do some effective reading, question what you're reading, who's this character, what they're about, what am I supposed to learn, what is this book about? All right, then reward yourself. So your reward is that you can get up, go for a stretch, walk your dog, check the TikTok, uh, and that is your reward. Now your reward can't be for 30 minutes. Your reward has to be less than that. So make it 10 minutes and then you're back to studying again. Okay, here's some more tips. Identify spots in the term where you have many test exams projects that are due. So we've covered that. Identify when you have non-curricular activities to prepare for. So that could be a game or tournament. So let's say you have a tournament or a game coming up, a soccer game coming or a football game coming up in 2 weeks. Well, you've got to practice, right? So what time do you practice? If you're practicing at 7 in the morning, that means you have to actually manage your day for the next week. So you're going to have to rewrite that week at a glance maybe and say, okay, well, now I have to get up at 6 o'clock every morning because I have to be at practice for 6:30, which is right around the corner. And I'm going to spend an hour there and like really then shift all of what you've written down, but do not exclude the important things, especially when it comes to your academics. You may even have to take something out, which would have been, you know, fun, like going over to your friends to play video games, maybe because you've got those extra hours to practice for your football game. You need that video game time to actually study. Okay, another one could be a wedding, right? It could be your wedding. It could be your best friend's wedding. You're going to have a lot of stuff to do before that wedding. So again, you know, really think about your schedule for that week. You may have a party. It could be your birthday party. It could be somebody's party. You need to make time and prepare for that. You may have a job. Again, it may be a part-time job where it changes, times changes. You may be working shifts or whatever. You need to think about all of that before you make your schedules. And then, of course, you do need free times with your friends or just to be alone. So more long-term planning tips. Decide on specific ways you will prepare for those tasks. Work with a friend. Meet your professor or instructor for clarification. I don't know why that came up second. This is huge. If you are not sure of what you need to do, don't be afraid to meet with your professor or instructor for clarification, and make sure you've got all your questions written down before you get there, because you don't want to go there, ask 1 or 2 questions, and then leave and say, oh, I should have asked this or that, or I'm not sure how to do this. Really understand what your tasks need to be in order to achieve your goal. Read your paper out loud or present your project to a friend. That's so important, because sometimes we write what we're thinking, but it may not be grammatically correct, or there may be a better word to use, and maybe your friend or whomever you're reading to will actually give you some suggestions. So, which comes to my next point, listen to constructive criticism and apply it. Okay, then rewrite, redo, edit your paper or project. Give yourself enough time to complete your tasks, including studying for an exam. And make sure that you have time to do all of these things. So this comes to the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. So thank you very much for having me. And if you have to go right now, have a great rest of your day.